Hello, welcome back to another live. My name is Laken, and I go live every week to share some insight with you, to share some updates on my goals, and then to answer any questions that you have about planning, goals, life, whatever. I've got my iced coffee handy dandy with me today, and let's get started while we wait for everyone to join in. I'm going to ask you my first question. It's not that one. Where did Oh, yeah, it is that one. Wow, my brain today is not functioning. What is one small win that you have to share from the week? If you are here live, please say hello in the chat and let us know what your win is. And if you are part of the replay fam, please say hello down in the comments and let us know what your win is from the week as well. I'm a little bit behind on YouTube comments as of this going live, but I do plan to catch up and I promise I will read your comments. It is one of my favorite things is to read all of your wins from the prior week. So I will share mine while I wait for some of the comments to pop up. I lowered my workout goal. If you watched the goals video that went live earlier this week, I had talked about likely doing that, but I actually did it and followed through on that. So let's see. I did my market survey and closed it today. Happy to be here live. Happy to have you, Amy. My win is I am back working broken foot and scheduled your mammogram. Oh my gosh, Anna, I hope you're feeling better from breaking your foot and scheduling those appointments. So important. Made an A- on your first math class of your bachelor degree. Congrats. Oh my gosh. That's amazing. Happy Wednesday. Got your May goals for work all set up. I love it. I also did that. Yeah, we had a live last week. I couldn't think of it. So at the end, spoiler, if this is your first live, if it's not, you know what I'm going to say. At the end, I always ask you for one action step. If you did that action step, that can be your win. It's that simple. Sometimes I do that, and I almost did, like say, my win is that I made my sticky notes for my Kanban board because I did, and that was my action step from last week. But also, I had another win to share that I wanted to share too. All right. If you keep joining in and you want to share your wins, I would love to hear them. But let's go ahead and move in. Oh, here's one morning. It's been forever since I caught a live. Welcome. My win is continuing to make progress towards your ideal AM routine. Volunteered with your son's teacher. Completed your April review and May plan. Made it through a very busy Tuesday work, karate, school meeting, and church event. Whew. Monique, that is a lot of things on a Tuesday. Holy moly. Hello from SoCal, 10 a.m. here and doing morning chores. I love it. Stuck to my schedule of a goal, having a great week so far. I love that too. Sorry, my eyelash is doing something funky. It's going to bother me if I don't fix it. Okay. My eyelashes are so long, y'all, that sometimes they hit my glasses. Okay. Well, it's still kind of weird. Anybody? I'm going to be distracted by it if I don't get it fixed. I love hearing about what you do while you watch these lives. I try to always repeat the questions so that you don't have to sit here and stare at my face while you listen or watch. You can do something else while you're doing it. I scheduled a trial guitar lesson. I love that. I was just talking on, I guess it's the podcast episode with my sister that will go out tomorrow about how I want to get back to playing the piano more. We'll see. All right, let's move into my reading update. So sticking with the boring stuff to start, I am still reading How to Manage Your Home Without Losing Your Mind. I did not make a ton of progress on it from last week. It's been kind of a lot going on over here in our family. If you didn't see, I shared this on Instagram yesterday, but my family lost our family cat, one of them. My mom had 3 cats. We had 2 little boys that we got 17 years ago. So I was, quick math, 16 when we got them, which is just, that's crazy, forever ago. And then she had another cat that she got a couple of years later, who's a Bengal. The 2 boys were black cats and then a Bengal kitty. And we lost one of the black cats a couple of years back. And then we just lost the other one over the weekend. He was 17, sweet, sweet boy. But that's kind of where my head has been for the last week or so and where I've been kind of focusing a lot of my time. I spent a lot of the time over the weekend just with my family. So hadn't made a ton of progress on this book. Sorry, didn't mean to make that so depressing. But I did finish the audiobook I was listening to, which is the Britney Spears autobiography called The Woman in Me. I briefly mentioned this last week, but I'm just going to reiterate since I actually finished this book. It is not the best written book I've ever listened to ever. And I don't love an audio autobiography that was not read by the author. But I will say by the end of the book, I kind of felt like I heard her voice in the authors. Needless to say, she or whoever picked the narrator did a really good job of picking somebody that was very similar, I think, in voice to Brittany, but it's not her exactly. Not the greatest written book ever. I think I gave it 3 stars on Goodreads. But if you grew up in the 90s, if you're a Britney fan in any way, I really enjoyed the backstory and the content and kind of a lot more behind the scenes of everything that went down with her. So that actually marks my 5th autobiography that I listened to this year, which was a category I actually added on to my list, my book list, pretty early on in the year. And I picked 5 that I had never read. That was like my initial list. And I kind of, based on recommendations from you, but also like I kind of knew this is where I was headed after I finished these. I'm actually rereading Becoming, which is Michelle Obama's book. I read this when it first came out, however many years ago. I have it in hard copy. Actually, you can't see it in this angle. You can see these 3 books right here are both of Michelle Obama's books and then Barack Obama's book underneath. And I read it in hard copy when it first came out, but I really wanted to reread it, A, so that I could listen to it read by her, and B, it's set in a lot of it at the beginning is set in Chicago because that's where she's from. She's from here. So I wanted to read it again. So that is what I'm listening to. My mom actually already owned the audio book. She owns both Becoming and Brock's book. So that's probably where I'm headed next. But I'm about 12% of the way through that. And then I am still chugging on A Court of Mist and Fury, y'all. It's good. That's really good. And I know all of you told me this, like, you just got to get through the first one and the second one's really good. It's really good. Every extra minute I have to spare, I am picking up this book. So 17. Yeah, it was a good life for that sweet boy. I'm reading Listen for the Lie. Interesting. I haven't heard of that one. Is it fiction, nonfiction? I'll have to look into it. I feel like this year so far, I have made really good progress on the fiction category. I finished all 5 that I said I was going to finish. And then the autobiography category, I finished all 5 of those and moved on. It's the nonfiction, like hard copy books that I am taking a lot slower progress on. And I knew that was probably going to be the case because listening to a book or reading fiction at the end of the day when I'm just trying to relax is very different than fitting in time for nonfiction, but I need to do that. Oh, working on Sarah's books. I do have her books on my list, Amy. I think maybe after I finish A Court of Thorns and Roses, although I also then want to read, I have already read Sarah J. Do you say J when you say her name? Sarah J. Maas. I read Throne of Glass. Now I'm reading A Court of Thorns and Roses. And then I kind of want to read the last one while I'm still in the world. But I do have Sarah's books on my list too. Love it. I love hearing about your book updates as well. Please feel free to share them. If you're here live, share in the comment or in the chat. And if you're watching the replay, share in the comments. I also love hearing about your books. Okay, let's move on to my monthly goal check-in. So this video went up earlier this week of what my goals are for the month of May. So I'm not going to go into super detail about what they mean because that's what that video is for. The weekly check-ins are meant to just be that, a weekly check-in of where I'm at and how I'm feeling about the month so far. So starting with the one-time steps, they're all scheduled. They all have time in my calendar to go on them, like the class and the adventure, or to do them. We'll see how that actually pairs. I had intended to do some of them this weekend and didn't get to them. So we'll see. And then for weekly steps, pretty good. Last week, my weekly task kind of fell off a little bit. But like I said, I did lower my workout. I didn't change the days. I just changed the minutes. So my goal is still to do 3 days. I'm not going to share my minute goal because I feel like there's it's a double-edged sword. Like when I share numerical based goals, even these goals, sometimes I feel like some people compare themselves in a bad way, right? They're like, oh my gosh, it's so high. I'm not doing enough. And then on the flip side, some people are like, that's it. Like, that's all you're doing. Like, you work for yourself and like, you can't set a higher goal than that. So I'm not going to share. But I did lower the minutes so that each individual workout is smaller. And then monthly task and weekly task are the same. And then using my air fryer as a goal for each week. And then in terms of daily steps, they are all basically exactly the same as April. The only difference is that I upped the number of photos so that I could really try and play catch up. And then some of the other daily steps here on the Instagram limit and the PM cutoff, we're obviously talking about today because that is the topic, is limiting screen time. So that's my goals. That's where my goals are at so far for the month. Any questions, comments, thoughts, things you want to share on that before we move on? Some is better than none. Time doesn't matter. Absolutely. Oh, I agree completely. And I feel so good about what works for me in my life. I just am really trying to find the balance of not opening it up for other people's suggestions. And I know, don't get me wrong, that is what happens when you share your life on the internet. You are giving them permission to comment on it. Absolutely. But there's the decisions I have to make then. It's like, is that worth my potential, I don't want to even, I don't know, detriment to my mental health because people comment on things. And like for some things, I have decided I'm just not sharing them anymore. So, but it goes both ways because I also feel like some people on the flip side see my goals and they're like, wow, I'm not doing enough. And that's not true either. That's not true either. All right, let's talk about screen time. So if you've been around, this was a goal that I had set, I don't know how many years ago. How many years ago did I think it was like maybe 21, like as we were coming out of lockdown. And I was like, okay, I've spent way too much time on screens in the last year. I need to focus on spending less time on screens. And I started to implement some screen time limits. And it's fluctuated since then. Like there have been times, especially like 21 and 22, where I was both working my full-time job and my business pretty significantly because I had added some stuff in my business during lockdown while I had this extra time. And then we came out of lockdown and now all of a sudden my social life, travel, all of those things were back up and running, but I was still trying to work my 9 to 5 and run the business that I had built it up to be. And don't get me wrong, so thankful, so thankful. I wouldn't be sitting here and be able to have the flexibility that I do, especially now that I have a daughter, etc. However, it was a lot. And I think I did spend less time on screens during that period of time just because I didn't have the time to spend it on screens. And then it sort of fluctuated back the other way when I got pregnant and I spent a lot of time just like resting because I was exhausted and I was nauseous and all the things. And then even like postpartum, you're sitting there with like a sleeping baby on you and I did a lot of scrolling. And there's a lot of beautiful things on my phone. There's a lot of fantastic apps that help me achieve my goals. There's a lot of fantastic people on social media that inspire me and teach me and encourage me. And then there's a lot of reasons why I don't want to be spending that much time on my phone. And I'm not going to go into all of my personal reasons because you've got to figure out that why for you. If this is a goal that you have, you've got to know why it is something that you want to work on. And I finally realized that I needed to take action. I needed to have some action steps to get me to spend less time on my phone. But here's the thing, and I think I mentioned this last week as well. I pick the topics with a content coach a quarter in advance. So we had our call at the beginning of March and picked all the topics. And when I picked this topic in early March, I thought I would have it figured out. I thought I would be able to share about it. I thought I would be able to actually provide some actionable things that have worked for me and could work for you, or at least have it be better. And truthfully, it's not. It's not really that much better. But I'm not going to change the topic because the topic is what it is. But what I'm going to do instead, I'm going to share 3 ideas and things that I'm working on. Whether or not they're ultimately going to work to get me to spend less time on my phone, TBD. But I'm going to share what I'm doing. And then I'm going to open it up as somewhat of a conversation and hope that those of you here live or those of you watching the replay will share some suggestions for all of us as well. So the first thing that I'm working on are time cutoffs. So finding myself asking first before I even kind of decided on time cutoffs, it was really more about when am I spending the most time on my phone doing something that is not what I would want to be doing in that moment. And that I'm kind of jumping the gun to number 3 here, but I found that scrolling in the morning, if I wake up before my daughter, which those of you with little kids know that that is not always going to be the case. And when it is, it's a beautiful, wonderful miracle. And if you're not a morning person and you're like, I never wake up before my kids, great. Don't do that. I know that I'm a morning person. And by the time she goes to bed at night, my ability to function and do anything, I don't want to use the word productive because rest is productive, but to check anything off that's like a to-do list item is not going to happen in the evening. So if I want some time, not that she doesn't nap during the day, but you know what I mean? Some more uninterrupted time, I need to wake up before her. But I would find myself just laying in bed and scrolling. I literally did it this morning, y'all. So I have not actually implemented a morning cutoff or not, it's the backwards, right? A start time yet. That's likely going to be a June action step, but it is on my list. Now I have implemented a nighttime cutoff. And this is also when I find myself just laying in bed scrolling. And it was like, that is not what I want to be doing with this time. And so I set a time cutoff. Now, if you watch my goals video, and I also think I talked about this on a live, I originally set my time cutoff for 1 time. And I found myself overwriting it almost every single night. Now, if you don't know, if you have an iPhone, you can set, it's called like downtime. And you can set all of your apps to gray out at a certain time and then not turn on until a certain time in the morning. But it's pretty easy to override, right? You just say like ignore and you open it up, right? And it is while it is an extra step that you have to take, it's so easy to mentally just override it that I did it a lot in May. I did it a lot. And so I was like, you know what? April. So I'm actually going to make it later because what I want to do is get more consistent with not overwriting it and actually listening to it. And then if I want to pull it back at all, I can pull it back. I think it also goes along sometimes with our brains about needing things to be like perfectly on like a 15 or a 30, like when it comes to time, right? I have this issue sometimes too with stuff related to my daughter. I'm like, oh, I want to track this at like the 5. And it's like, really? You're going to wait or not wait an extra 2 minutes so that you can't cut it off. But even then I was in my head, it was like, it either has to be on the 30 or the 0. And it's like, or the 15. And I was like, no, it doesn't. Now, right now the cutoff is at a 30. But my plan or my goal is to just cut it back by 5 minutes next month. That's my goal. That's my ultimate goal. Where am I at so far for this? Again, how many times? So the only day that I overrode it was, the day we went and saw a show and I wanted to check Instagram on the Uber ride home. And honestly, the total time for the day, I guess it looks like I hit the limit on Friday too. But it was, the irony is that it was just because it was late and I was awake late, not because I was laying in bed scrolling. But I have listened to it every other day this month. And sometimes it's right before, right? It pops on and I'm like, oh, okay, it's time to put my phone down and go to sleep. Or sometimes I finish it way earlier, but I'm still listening to it. So right now, that's the only one I'm kind of working on is the PM cutoff. But eventually, I am going to also have a morning time start. And I definitely have done this in the past, and I probably will do this too. Have a morning cutoff, but give myself like 5 minutes. 5 minutes to scroll and then go back to being cut off in the morning. We'll see. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2 is which apps. Oh, by the way, this cutoff is for everything on my phone. It's not just Instagram. Um, it's really for everything on my phone. But the culprit most of the time is Instagram. It's not like I'm texting somebody past my bedtime. Okay, number 2, which apps are my biggest drivers? And again, a lot of the tools I'm talking about in this topic, if you have an iPhone, they're right there. They're at your fingertips, the numbers, all the things, they're right at your fingertips. I don't know if Android has the same kinds of features. So, but you can look at your numbers and see which apps you're spending the most time on. And so Instagram is my number 1. And then there are some other ones. Games on my phone is another big one. Um, and so I'm just starting with Instagram. And very similar to the time cutoff is I don't want a limit that I'm just constantly overwriting. That's just not helpful. It doesn't get me into a good mind space. And then every time I click overwrite, it makes me feel guilty. And that's not helping me feel good about this being a goal. So I want to set it to a limit that I actually follow through on and I'm reasonable about. And so let's see, let's check again. Where am I at? So 1, 2, 3, I'm half-ish so far for the month. Truthfully, I probably could have made it bigger and just not, so that I could see more consistency. And again, I said this in my goals video. It's seeing the check marks here is not about my personal, like I'm seeing progress, I'm seeing the check marks. It's the habit for me. I don't want the habit of overwriting it. I want to listen to it when it says you've spent enough time on Instagram today, get off, right? You've scrolled enough. And so when I overwrite it, I also think about what am I overwriting for? One of the days last week, I spent a significant amount of time on Instagram filming and editing reels for May. So when I hit the limit that one at 3 p.m., I was like, well, of course I did. Of course I hit the limit. This is not me spending the time on Instagram scrolling. It's me spending time on Instagram doing things for work. And I know that is a piece of it. And I know people on the internet say this all the time. Well, I have to be on my phone for work. And yes, but also I know myself. And I know the days that I am hitting that limit or going over that limit because I spent too much time scrolling on Instagram, and the days that I actually spent time on the app doing things for work. The other thing I've been doing, though, to help me with this habit of the clicking is when I hit the limit, I either decide in that moment, I'm either following that and I'm getting my check mark for the day and I'm done. I'm not overwriting it and I'm done. Or I'm overwriting it, but I'm not going to keep clicking it. So what I mean by that is on the iPhone, when you hit a limit for one of your apps, and you want to overwrite it, you can either overwrite it for 1 minute, but it only lets you do that once. You can overwrite it for 15 minutes and then it goes gray again, or you can ignore it for the rest of the day. What I used to do, I mean last month, I overwrote it for 15 minutes. And then ultimately I was like, well, I'm already not getting the check mark. So then I would overwrite it again for another 15 minutes. And I would do that for literally the rest of the day. What I'm doing now that I'm hoping is going to help with the habit is when I hit it, I either decide I'm committed and I'm getting that check mark for the day, I'm not opening it, or I'm not getting the check mark and I click ignore for the rest of the day so that I don't have to keep clicking it every time I want to go open the app. Now, it'll be interesting to see what that does to my average at the end of the month compared to my average in April. Because I think in April, even though I hit it a lot more frequently, I was doing that 15 minutes. So probably overall, the days that I still hit my limit in April was probably still less than some of the ones so far this month, but we'll see. Who knows? Again, I think a lot of it here is it's action, it's steps, but it's also mental. It's also a mental game with myself of is that what you need? How can you stop making it a habit of reopening it? Which brings me to number 3, which is when I am doing these things on my phone, whether it's scrolling through Instagram, playing a game on my phone, etc., what would I rather be doing instead? What is it that I would rather be doing with that time? And the answer is not always consistent, right? So like I said, in the morning, if I'm laying in bed scrolling, I think I laid there and scrolled for 20 minutes this morning. Ultimately, I woke up 45 minutes before she did this morning, and I spent half of that laying in bed. That's not what I wanted to do at that time. There's so many other things I would have read. That progress on my nonfiction book I'm talking about, could have read. That's a good idea. The minutes. Whew. Okay, so what I was going to tell you related to this, and then I'm going to go through my different times of day, is setting tangible goals for the stuff you'd rather be doing. It's almost like when people are talking about quitting soda, and like, yeah, you can set a goal to drink less soda, and I'm all for that, but what are you filling that with instead? And can you set an opposite goal to drink more water or drink more whatever tea in its place? Same thing here. Can you set a tangible goal to do something instead? And so I think in the mornings, if you watch my morning routine video from a couple weeks ago, I got to a stopping point in the routine that said, if I can do all this before she wakes up, I'm in good shape. All that stuff is, spoiler alert, not 45 minutes. So what I think I'm going to start doing instead, I love when I talk about a topic and like an idea for myself comes to me. I'm going to move up reading nonfiction, and I'm going to do it for however long till she wakes up, because that's what I would be rather doing instead in the morning before. Yeah, cool. Love it. Okay. So that's the morning time. The nighttime, it's sleep, y'all. Or maybe it's reading nonfiction and or sleep. Those are the things I'd rather be doing in the evenings. And then during the day, what are the things I would rather be doing? And this is when the scrolling on Instagram is sometimes about the negativity of like seeing things that don't keep me going. But then some of it is, would I rather be spending this time? And being into a fiction book right now really helps. I find myself picking up my book before I pick up my phone sometimes, which is money. But it also comes down to just being more aware of when I pick up my phone and I'm scrolling Instagram, asking myself, is this what I want to be doing with my time? Or would I rather be doing something else? And then can I set a tangible goal to be doing something else? And I have another kind of work related goal that I'm going to try to, that I'm not going to talk about yet, that I'm hoping will also help with this. And hitting those work goals during the day will keep me from just scrolling Instagram in my extra pockets of time and doing this work related thing instead. So those are the three things I'm working on. How they're working, how they're not working, what my thoughts. I would love if you are here live or if you're watching the replay and you have worked on this before, I would love your thoughts. If you have any other thoughts or suggestions, things that have worked for you, things that haven't worked for you, any other ideas or things that you want to comment, let's make this kind of a conversation, because it is still something that I'm working on, and you will continue to see this definitely in my June goals, because it's a Q2 goal and probably a Q3 goal as well. So I'm going to hop over to the comments. I have a major issue with doom scrolling, especially when I'm tired. Yes, for sure. Screen time is definitely a valuable discussion. Social media companies have an agenda to foster addiction. They absolutely do. That's the dopamine hit is there for real. Rachel, I feel this. I wish that there were more 1 minute overrides allowed, or a 5-minute override, so that I don't have to override for 15 minutes or all day. I agree. I wish there was a 5-minute override, because sometimes if I'm in like the middle of something and it pops up, I would like a 5-minute as opposed to a 15-minute. But yeah, or I wish you could, I feel like you could customize that. Like, I feel like, I know I'm not a coder. I've done coding in my days when I was an actuary, but I feel like it wouldn't be that difficult to code the override to be custom. Maybe I'm wrong. Some coder's going to come at me and tell me. CC, way to go. Great role modeling of wisdom and mindfulness regarding quality use of our time. I appreciate this comment so much. I just want to say also, I'm not perfect. Like, I'm sharing, there are some days that are better than nothing. I mean, I shared this morning that I scrolled for 20 of my 45 minutes that I had before she woke up. And so it's not great every day, but it's something I am constantly working towards. It's something that I want to be better about. I think my screen time ebbs and flows. I have times that I scroll like crazy and other times I don't touch my phone. Yeah. And I think you just maybe notice it, right? When you scroll like crazy, what else could be going on? I know that some of us also use scrolling as a method of like relaxing or as escape? Like, could you be doing something else? When you don't touch your phone, what were you doing? That's a really good like sign of like what you enjoy and what lights you up is like, what were you doing when you didn't even touch your phone? Yeah, you only get one 1-minute override. And then you have to choose between 15 minutes or the rest of the day. So, but again, I'm really trying to get out of that habit of the override as much as I would like a different one. Like I totally feel that, Rachel. I also think trying to get out of the habit of the override and just realize what it is like for that day. Like, what am I doing that day? Scrolling is procrastination, 100%. Um, if you feel like your screen time numbers are related to procrastination, I would encourage you to go back and rewatch that video that I made a couple years ago on procrastination. I probably could also use a rewatch on that video. Um, yeah, because me too. Same. Awesome. Well, I'm excited to hear any other thoughts that anyone wants to share about this topic. And maybe we'll do a part 2 if we get some things in the comments. And maybe in a couple months, I'll feel like I figured out some other things that have been working. But ultimately, like it's also not necessarily like I'm working towards this perfect end state with like these perfect numbers. It's more about just feeling better. Like I want to feel good about where I'm at with it, you know? I have to sneeze. Hang on. Okay, maybe not. Okay. All right, let's move on into Q&A. I know I already saw one pop up that I'll get back to. But this time, the rest of this live, the last 30 minutes is whatever you want to chat about. So it could be about your individual goals or struggles. I promise you, even if you feel like it is specific to your life and your goals, I promise somebody else is going to benefit from the conversation. It can be a specific topic. If you don't know how to phrase it into a question, you can just put the word topic and whatever it is, and we can chat about it. Or whatever's on your mind, if you have a question about something that I've shared that you want me to dig into a little bit more. So I saw a question. This was really back to the goal stuff, but I didn't see it till after I'd already started talking about the topic. Where'd it go? Are the highlighter colors you use on your goal sheets helpful over time? So what I like about the color coordinating, I'm going to pop the picture back up. The colors on here are related to my overarching goals. And I like just seeing that there's a balance. To be honest, or if there's not, is that how I want it to be? Like, are these the goals I really want to be spending my time on? There's really no other major benefit to it. For me personally, I just like seeing the balance of all of my various colors. It's also sometimes a reminder, like without having to get too specific, right? Like one class with orange, it's like that is one class is pretty vague, but I know what it means related to the orange goal. If that makes sense. So I don't know about over time, but at a glance, I like seeing the balance between the colors. I don't know if this is really a question. I've been doing the balance app meditations, and last week my car alternator went bad. Car wouldn't start, and it didn't stress me out like it normally would, maybe related to meditation habit building. Perhaps. Sometimes it's like I feel you, and I really want to find the why behind why it went the way that it did, and why all of a sudden do I have patience I didn't have before? Why all of a sudden did I not freak out about that thing that I had freaked out about before? But sometimes you just have to pat yourself on the back and be like, good job, me, and relish in how good that feels so that you do it again the next time it happens. What advice would you give for reducing screen time overall for the family, 6-year-old me and hubby? That's a great question, Elizabeth. And I'm hoping maybe somebody else who has attacked this goal from a family perspective could share some thoughts, because I don't have any personal suggestions. In related to kids, I have actually zero. My daughter's only 8 months, and I have no idea what that ride is going to look like when we get there and what that's going to look like. In terms of relating it to a spouse or a partner or somebody else that you want them to spend less time on their phone. Again, I think I've said this before related to goals with other people. It's really difficult to force anybody into something. So I would encourage you, my only suggestion would be to really focus on this last thing is what would you rather be doing instead? So if you're decreasing screen time overall as a family, what is it that you want to be doing in place of that screen time as a family, and set goals around that. So here's Amy popping up. My family board games or crafts. Like, yeah, what does your 6-year-old love to do? What do the 3 of you like to do together? What can be together as a family? Is it going somewhere? Is it doing something? Is it like whatever that is? And set goals around that and focus on what's replacing the screen time as opposed to just cutting back on something like screen time. And then I think it's interesting. Again, I've listened to a smidge of things on screen time and kids, but I know that's not where I'm at yet. I know I said this years ago, y'all, when I used to like listen to podcast episodes and watch YouTube videos about people with kids. And then I finally had to tell myself, like, you don't have kids yet. It's not a good use of your time to watch a YouTube video right now at this phase in your life about somebody with a kid. And now it's almost the same thing, but it's like the next phase. Like there's a podcast I'm subscribed to, and a lot of her topics are like about teenage and older kids. And like, yes, I'm going to need that someday, but am I going to remember it in 12 years when I need it? No, I'm not. So I need to focus on where I'm at right now. So I haven't listened to a ton, but I do know that having, I'm not actually sure about this with 6 and if it would work the same. But it can work for us as well, is using screen time for specific scenarios, right? Like we watch screens when we travel. We watch screens when we're sick. We watch screens for 30 minutes after school to transition from school to home, right? And have it have a purpose as opposed to just being a part of the everyday. And I know that is so much easier said than done. I get it. Because here I am talking about my own screens. And sometimes I'm like, if I can't even get my own screens under control, how on earth am I going to have a child not get their screens under control? But baby steps. Baby steps. Maybe tackling the goal as a family together, setting aside time where everyone is off screens together. Yeah, totally. I try to realize I'm scrolling too long and then either set a forest app or put on a silent co-working YouTube. That's a great suggestion. Use a timer. If you realize you've been scrolling, to prevent yourself from getting back into that scrolling, set a timer and go do something else for that set of time. That's a good suggestion, Allison. Love it. Also, your questions are more than welcome to be about this topic. It could also be about whatever, in case that wasn't clear. What else? What else is on your mind? I have 2 fun packages here that I haven't opened yet. Well, I mean, I've taken things out of the package, the Amazon packaging, but I haven't actually done anything. One is a label maker. Y'all, I've never actually owned a label maker. That's a huge lie that I realized as it was coming out of my mouth. I used to own one of those ones that was like a gun where you like scroll, like twist it to the letter you want and then press, and then it put the letter in, and then you twist it, next letter, and then you rip it off. I had one of those, but I haven't had like a true label maker where it like prints it out. But I realized after traveling that I wanted to label some things. And so I've got a label maker that I'm excited to open. And then one of you suggested these, and so I bought them. Look how pretty. These are the Neat Art. Oh, I almost just knocked over my coffee. Neat Art. So I'm excited to try these. I love dot markers. Okay. Just thought I would fill that time with some things I got in the mail. You could also say you'll only use social media when you're doing something else. That's a good idea. Instead of just like laying in bed and scrolling. I also don't think, and this is related to this topic, we don't have to be an all or nothing, right? I'm not trying to get things down to 0. I'm not trying to say that I'm going to get in bed and not scroll at all. In fact, in my evening routine, if I'm doing my evening routine like right before bed, which is rare because I'm usually tired by then, Those are the nights I tend to skip it. But I have in there scroll for 5 minutes because I'm not trying to say I'm not going to scroll at all. But 5 minutes feels good to me compared to 15 or 20 or 30 or an hour. Same thing in the morning, which is why I have to figure out that morning cutoff really working for me because I don't foresee myself as being the person that just like gets up in the morning and doesn't check social media for like an hour. Like I don't see myself being that person. But I could see myself saying like I get 5 minutes to scroll and check up um and and then that's it. Like it doesn't have to be all or nothing. The gun style label makers are so fun. I labeled my pantry canisters with one and they look so cute and retro. Yeah, Joanna, I almost ordered one like that, but then I decided that people like, well, I thought my family would make fun of me. So I got like a more modern one. Ask me anything from a newbie. You are totally welcome to ask anything, even if you feel like you're not the only newbie. I know it might feel like sometimes you see the same names pop up, but you're like, everybody's here all the time. But I'll tell you the number of people that I can see. I don't know if you can see how many people are here live on your end, like I can, but the number of people commenting is not near the number of people here live. So you are unlikely the only newbie here. So if you have a question that you feel like I have probably answered before, please ask it. This is not just at you, Susie. Anybody, please ask it. Any background on your name. So yes, my mom watched a soap opera called Santa Barbara. And there was a character named Laken, and she fell in love with the name and decided that is what she was going to name her first daughter. When she was pregnant with me, multiple people in my family tried to talk her out of the name, saying it was too unique, too weird, and that she should pick something more mainstream. So she considered a couple more mainstream names, some of which were Amanda, and Lily was the one my grandmother really liked, and my mom almost got convinced, and then went into labor and had a very difficult labor and said, I am naming this child whatever I want, and it's going to be Laken. So the end. Thank you. Goodbye. So then the irony of all ironies is that I now have a cousin Lily on my stepdad's side who is exactly 10 years younger than me. We have the same birthday, 10 years apart. So I think that's fun. And she actually just got into vet school. She is going to be going to the University of Wisconsin for vet school in the fall. And I'm so proud of her. Sorry if I missed this, but how did you get on with December Daily? Joanna, I still haven't finished it. So I got up to day 11 or whatever it was I showed in my video, and I still haven't finished it. I think, I don't know yet when I'm going to pull that out. It's now that the weather is nice, it is really hard for me to think about setting a goal of sitting inside, like taking the free time. But at the same time, like, my daughter naps, and there are definitely times that I am stuck inside and when she's asleep, but I don't want to work. So I don't know. I haven't finished it, but I'm okay. I have all the photos printed. But I haven't actually finished it yet. Thank you. Yeah, it is awesome. She got into Wisconsin and there's one other one, and then she ended up choosing Wisconsin. We need more veterinarians. I didn't know that. Is that true? My brother, one of my stepbrothers, also wants to be a vet, but he has to finish. He is taking another gap year to get. You have to have a certain amount of hour credit working with animals to even apply for vet school, and because of the pandemic, didn't get all those in. So he's going to be like 1 year behind her. So hopefully next fall he'll be going into somewhere. He really wants to go to U of I, since that's where he went for undergrad, and they have a good vet school. I agree with you that it's not the best idea to tell your spouse when they can and can't use their screens, but if framed as setting an example for the kids may open a more positive conversation. We started no screens at dinner that still holds today, kids 26 and 28. Linda, I love that idea. That is a great idea and a great suggestion. Yeah, I mean, we're not sitting here saying we're going to tell our spouse or partners like what to do or what not to do. I will say, like, Sam has asked before for advice on spending less time on his phone, and so I've given him suggestions of actions he could take. But he initiated the conversation. But I love this, setting an example for the kids. There's so many things that I could use that as my why in life. I need to eat my vegetables. I'm setting an example for the kids. I need to I don't know what else do I need to do is setting a good example for the kids. Hmm. Do you have any resources for Excel knowledge? Rachel, I don't. Um, I mean, I learned all my Excel knowledge just like by doing in my various jobs and classes over the years. And I definitely did a lot of Google. Did a lot of Googling, but you kind of have to know what you're doing to Google. It's not like you know what you're trying to get at. Um, so I don't have anything off the top of my head. I'm sorry. Any Mother's Day plans? Yeah, we are going to brunch. Well, the first Mother's Day plan, I guess, is that my mom and I are going to see Mamma Mia on Friday. It's not officially part of Mother's Day, but Sam, my husband, and I have the Broadway in Chicago season tickets. And one of the shows for this season was Mamma Mia. And Sam was like, I don't really care. Like, I'm not really all that excited to see it. So I was like, well, I know my mom would be really excited to go. And it is the Friday before Mother's Day. So why don't I just take my mom? So my mom and I are going on Friday to see Mamma Mia, which will be really fun. And then, slightly spoiler alert for my one thing I'm going to talk about at the end, on Saturday, I'm going to go take a dance class, which is kind of a like Mother's Day gift from me to me. And then on Sunday, we are going to brunch, and then we are going on a wine tour of this new wine place in the city. So I'm really excited about that. So it's going to be, um, uh, obviously my mom, my stepdad, and then me and my husband and our daughter, and then my brother and sister, who are my mom's kids. Um, my brothers who live here in Chicago, they're my stepbrothers on my stepdad's side. So they are spending Mother's Day with their mom out in the burbs. So it's like half of our family, but we're excited. It was funny though, because I did see a reel that made me laugh on Instagram about like how moms have to plan Mother's Day themselves. And like that, my mom and I made the whole plan and just told everybody else like when and where to show up. Oh, well, maybe Skillshare. Yeah. I've never tried Skillshare yet either, but that's a good option. Or LinkedIn Learning, another good option. Maybe I just didn't get very much in school outside of the basics and a random stats class. Rachel, I really do think if you have an idea of what you are trying to learn about, Google, like most, I forget what the forum, like there's like a forum that's like Excel, Mr. Excel or something like that. That like if you know what you're trying to do, you could or hopefully would be able to figure it out from some sort of Googling for it. But it's not going to be like teach like generic teaching. You know what I mean? I had to have computer classes in college, but very outdated. Is it? Do they still do computer classes? Seems like that should still be a thing. But obviously, a lot has changed since I was in school. I realized this month will be, and I know that every time I say my age, I get both like I get it from both ends. But just to anchor in my age, this month makes 15 years since I graduated high school. And 15 years sounds like a long time. And what's funny, so our high school just did the same musical they did when we were in high school. And a friend of mine, we were happened to be in Houston the weekend it was of the show, because he texted me and was like, we should go see this because apparently it has been long enough since they've done it, since we did it, that they're doing it again and we should go see it. And it's just that moment kind of made me feel a little bit old, that I was like, it's been so long since we did that musical in high school that our high school gets to do it again. Cool. Great. Thank you. Okay. There's some great YouTube videos. That's also a good idea. A community college has continuing education on computer skills, including Excel. Also a great suggestion. Look at you all coming in with the ideas. Rachel, hopefully something in there can help you. The good suggestion, if this is what we're talking about, back to the question with like family and children with screen times, is focus on you and your family will follow on their own time. Absolutely. This is one of those, I mean, it depends on what it is that you're trying to tackle. But yes, with a lot of things, and I know I talk about the book. I reference the book Decluttering at the Speed of Life a lot, and she talks about this concept in her book, talking about decluttering with family members is like you're not going to just convince them to declutter their stuff. Like it's not going to happen, and you probably it wouldn't benefit you to try. And so just do your own thing and focus on your stuff, and eventually, hopefully, they will follow suit. So, um, yeah, but that's always a good reminder. Hmm. Anything else on your mind? Any other questions? Anything else you're struggling with? I hear a squeak in the background. Um, thank you all. I'm going to see if there is an advanced Excel class at the community college. Yeah, that's a great suggestion. And look into Skillshare and LinkedIn. Hopefully you find something that works for you, Rachel, of what you're trying to learn. It's funny because I do feel like my Excel skills are not totally put to use anymore now that I don't work as an actuary, but it is still nice sometimes to know how to do certain things, and I will use it for random things that other people probably would just like use a calculator for. And I'm like, let me just like plop this into Excel. We are in the messy middle of Q2. That is absolutely true. And there is still so much time. And I know I have said this before, but I'm going to say it again. The Q1 refresh of like March into April, that timing kind of makes sense for most of us. But as we approach summer, I wasn't planning to talk about this, but it's a good reminder. As we approach summer, if your season changes drastically as we head into summer, either you are a teacher or you work in education, your spouse is a teacher or works in education, your kids are home and your childcare changes drastically in the summer. Something about your life changes at whatever summer, I'm going to put that in quotes, means to you, and you need a refresh before June 30th, do it. I did a video last year, the year before last, about how to do a quarterly refresh. It is generic, but it is exactly what you need if you need to walk yourself through a quarterly refresh at any time of this quarter. Obviously, we are going to do one as a group, not the last weekend in June, but like the weekend before the last weekend in June. We're going to do a quarterly refresh together. If you don't want to wait until then, like if you want to do it before then because it makes sense for your life. If you're a community member, go back and watch last quarters. You can go through the quarterly refresh in the exact same way. Yes, are the words I say at the beginning specific to this quarter? Yep. Is it still beneficial to have the background of the music and walking you through each page? Yes. Yes, it is. So go back and do that if you can't wait until June 22nd is when we're going to do it together. But if you need it before then, take it. Take it. Ever since I started setting goals, well, let's be real. When I first started setting goals, I didn't do quarterly goals. I did not refresh my annual goals. I just like had these goals for the whole year. And that had a lot of cons related to it. So I switched to now I do quarterly goals. I do them based on the regular quarter. Right? Based on the every 3 months in the calendar. Someday in my life, that may not be the case. I may do a quarterly refresh at a different time point. It might be interesting to do a poll. Community members, keep an eye out in the Facebook group, or maybe we do it on the call tonight. But the call, you can only participate in the poll if you're there live. So, anyways, I may, like some point in my life, I may do a quarterly refresh earlier. when it actually is summer. But the other issue with like me trying to do it as a call for all of us is that everybody's timing is different, right? If you're working in education and you're in college, you're in upper, like higher education, your summer is probably pretty darn close. Like my brother in college is coming home this weekend, right? He's done with college this weekend. Um, the Whereas those of you with younger kids in grade school, it could be the end of the month if you're down in Texas, or it could be the end of June if you're in the Northeast. So it's kind of hard to like map it out for everybody. What's the best thing you've bought recently to help with a goal? Ooh, that is a good question. I don't know if I can think of something like off the top of my head. I think I talked about this, and I don't know if it really helps me with the goal, but I talked about this in a live. I have a clipboard that I bought. I just bought it on Amazon that I use to hold my I don't necessarily want to show all of this. I don't know how to do this, sorry. My time tracker for work. I don't know. That's a good question. If I come up with something better, Joanna, I'll post about it somewhere. All right. Wow. We are almost out of time, y'all. Okay. What is the one thing you're going to do this week to make progress on your goals? What is the one step that you're going to take this week between now and our next live in 1 week that you're going to do to make progress on your goals? You know, it doesn't have to be huge. Small progress is still progress. Oh my gosh, Susie, I love this. I bought community membership and Goals with Laken. I love that. You know what's funny, Joanna, about this question that I just realized? Keep an eye out, y'all, because on Monday, I am launching a giveaway to celebrate 6 years on YouTube. And it's 6 things that I could not live without to help me achieve my goals. And I haven't bought them recently, which is what threw me about the question, I think. But that's what the giveaway is. It will be live on Monday if you watch Monday's YouTube video. And then I'll also talk about it next week on the live. Schedule time to watch the replays. I love that. And then I kind of said this already. My one thing is I'm going to take a dance class on Saturday because Saturday I can do whatever I want, or this weekend is what my husband said. I can do whatever I want because it's Mother's Day. So I am going to take a dance class on Saturday. Attend the power hour tonight and get some writing work done during then. I love it. Keep coming back again and again to my goals, refreshing and revising as we move forward. Oh, all of us. Start building some desk drawers. That's exciting. If you are here live, I would encourage you to share in the chat what your one thing is. If you are watching the replay and you are still here, you're amazing. And let us know what your one thing is as well down in the comments. I would love to hear about your one thing as well. If you wouldn't mind giving this video a thumbs up before you head out, I would also greatly appreciate that. And if you're new here, please click that subscribe button. I upload new videos every week focused on helping you achieve your goals. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. See you next week.